In the Hall of the Mountain King. This is a very cool classical arrangement, very eerie, very interesting sounding, has some really neat stuff in it. We're going to use a different tuning for this. This is drop D tuning. So pretty commonly used, especially in a lot of rock music and things like that, but it is used in quite a few classical pieces. So for drop D tuning, we're going to be tuning our top string, which is an E. We're going to be lowering it a whole step to a D. You can do this with a tuner, or you can do it by using your ear. Either way is good, and you should practice both ways. So by doing it with the ear, I would play the D string as a reference. So I'm going to play that, and then I'm going to play my E, and I'm going to lower that to make it sound like this. Kind of going back and forth. I want to make sure that I hit this one first to compare this one to it. Like that would be too low. And when they're in tune, when they're out of tune, you'll actually hear like a wavering. When they're in tune, the sound waves align and you'll hear the notes kind of grab onto each other. So if it's sharp, you're going to hear them a lot faster. If it's flat, you'll hear a little more wobbly. It's much easier to hear that in person than through a camera, but the more you practice it, you'll really hear them lock up when they're in tune. Okay. To get it back up to regular tuning, what I would do without a tuner, I could use a tuner, but without a tuner, I would find an E. So I'm going to play E on the A string, which is on the 7th fret. That's what my top string should sound like. Okay, so that's a way you can do it. All right. If I was going to do it with the tuner, turn my tuner on, and I would just lower until it says D, and most tuners should be able to handle that. Okay. And it's a good idea whenever you change any type of tuning just to check the rest of the strings, because changing the tension of that string could potentially change how the guitar is feeling, so it might make some of the other stuff go out of tune. Okay, so now that top string has changed, so the notes on that string has changed. And now this is a D, D sharp, E, and it goes up alphabetically from there. So for instance, if you go to play a G chord, it's not going to work because this is no longer G. G is now up there. Okay, so just keep that in mind. A lot of stuff kind of gets shifted around. But by having that low D, we get this really nice deep thing that rings out. Okay, so let's check out the first measure. What we'll do is we'll look at the melody first. We're not going to worry about the bass notes. We'll look at the melody, and then we'll go back and add the bass notes in. So with most stuff, our fingers are going to be assigned first finger, first fret, second finger, second fret, third finger, third fret, so on and so forth. So the first part of the melody is 0, 2, 3. Okay, and then, so our first measure is, okay, second measure is, so whatever fret it says, I'm using that same finger number. Not being so strict with what I'm doing over here with these fingers. You do want them to alternate some. You don't want to be using one finger for all, but okay, now that's the first two measures. Now the next two measures are going to be, now if you look, you have a little F chord shape there. I'm going to put the whole first line together now. second line is very similar. It's actually melodically is the same. The only thing that's different is going to be the bass notes in that. All right, so I'm going to play the first two lines now together. Now we're going to go through and add the bass notes. You're going to have a bass note on the first line. Bass note's going to ring out the whole measure. So you have the D, it's going to ring for 4 beats. Okay? So it's going to be kind of this nice growl that's going to fill out the low end in that. Now I move into the second measure. I'm going to grab that D again. Third measure now. Here, this measure is maybe a little bit tricky. I'm going to grab the G and the 1 here. And then you're going to have to use your pinky for this note here. So it's going to be... Okay, so a little bit different fingering than we did before when we just did the melody, but that's okay. You get the idea of it. So... here's the first line again. Now we're going to be checking out the second line. Here you're going to be hitting the root notes twice per measure instead of once, so they're going to be getting 2 beats each, so they're going to be more frequent. That one just has that extra little note at the end there. I'll put lines 1 and 2 together now. Now let's check out the second part of the song. All right, this part's going to be a little bit different, and you'll notice this part. So this would be line 3 on the sheet music. This part repeats, so it's got the repeat symbol at the beginning and end. So this part you're going to go through 2 times. This we're going to put A as our root note. So this is kind of like the change in the song. Now this part you could even go through and work out the melody if you want. Okay, and then add the bass notes in. Okay. Okay, so I have A and then 2 on the G string. Both A's. So like in the beginning we had 2 D's, here we have 2 A's. And then it would repeat because we have the repeat sign there. Now we would be into the third part of this song. Here we have some real funkiness. You have these kind of really dark and strange sounding chords, really colorful chords. These are the diminished chord, okay? So it's actually a diminished 7. So I have a D, okay, and then I have a another D up here. Okay, then I have an A flat, G sharp or an A flat. I have an F, and I have a B there. So kind of a really eerie sounding chord. So finger-wise, I would use the thumb, and then I would use ring, middle, index. So kind of like we have them usually assigned here, we're going to kind of just shift them up here. And then the root note is going to change to the 2. So it's really the same thing, it's just the root note is changing. So it's the D, and then 2, which is a B. So it's... So it does that measure twice, essentially. It's a good part to mess around with dynamics, too. So maybe have it kind of like a little bit louder and aggressive. And then maybe a little echo. Or maybe play the first measure a little stronger, and then the second measure lighter. So you can play around with that. That's one of the beauties of classical guitar, is going in and working the song out and changing and adding and modifying and working out different dynamics and things like that. That's what really brings it to life, more than just numbers on the paper. So we have those first 2 measures there. And then the next part is like the beginning. Now here you're gonna have an A chord. Fingering wise, you can do it like that, really doesn't really matter. Whatever feels comfortable, but whatever you do, try to stick to it. Last line is gonna go back to the diminished chord. Here's that A again. And at the end, we're going to play a D and a D harmonic on 12. Or you could play the harmonic on 5. 5 is a little bit harder to get at, but it sounds really cool either way. If you can't get the harmonic to come out, you could even just hit 2 Ds. That's okay as well. And get real dramatic with the ending too. Kind of slow it down, let it taper off. So let it kind of really hang there, let a little suspense build. Very cool song, a lot of cool stuff in it. It's really not that hard to play once you put it all together, but let's hear it from the beginning now. Very cool. Enjoy it. Drop D. So now to bring it back up to tuning, if you had to, I would play my E. Now I'm back, or I could use the tuner, but that's it in the Hall of the Mountain King.